Hey everyone. It's been a long time since I've recorded a video. One of these, what I used to call in the works videos. I don't even know where I left off. I think it was around 14 or 15. And then there was a really big long break. So I'm not sure this is going to be a regular thing, but I felt like I've been doing so much work. Some of it might be interesting to some of you. I know a number of you ask about my process and how I put my novels together, how I do the artwork and the music and sort of assemble the whole thing. So I thought I would do one sort of rambly video for those of you who want to nerd out on this with me. If you don't, skip it. You can read the novel Daedalia that's going to be coming out in a couple of weeks. So some things to talk about. I guess first of all, shaping of this story started pretty much right on the heels of wrapping up Departures back in March of this last year. I was already kind of, wanting to start a new project. I wasn't really sure I wanted to serialize again. I wanted to take more time with this one. And I had also started working again. After 2 years of being joyfully unemployed, I finally had to get another job. And that consumed a lot of my mental energy and a lot of daylight hours. So I I started doing this adaptation that I've talked about before in different posts, but I love to be outside. Being outside is kind of an essential thing for me. Even though I live in the middle of Midtown Atlanta, I have to get outside every single day. It's just sort of good for my soul. So those hours that I can do that are fleeting. It's a couple of hours maybe in the morning or in the evening. And the evenings is usually family time. So morning is competing for nature time or creative writing time. So I had to find a way to kind of combine both of those things that I love. So I started writing on my walks. And if you're not familiar with Piedmont Park in Atlanta, it's a beautiful city park. This is kind of what you see in the park, or what I see in my little universe. Lots of nature, did lots of nice walks. I pretty much walk 3 or 4 miles in the morning, and I have my AirPods in, and I have my Google Doc open, and I voice dictate. That's how I do a lot of writing these days, unless it's a weekend. So yeah, this is kind of my writing desk, walking through the park, just sort of capturing ideas that then shape into actual narrative. And believe it or not, that it does become narrative. And I end up just having to go back on the desktop and edit, which is several passes, of course, to do that. But this is kind of my home. This is, where I live and work. And it's right across the street from where I live. And I'm fortunate for that. So that was, I guess, the first thing, how to be able to make this work, life, nature balanced thing keep me healthy. So it started there. And the concept for Daedalia is, you've probably seen the little trailer at this point. Maybe you even listened to the first chapter. But for those of you who aren't familiar, the story really is centered around a couple of people. An artist whose name is Kelly, a visual artist, and Lefty, the man who becomes her promoter and ultimately her life partner. But I wanted to explore this tension between creating art for art's sake and creating art for commercial gain or notoriety. It's something that's, I think, central to most of us who are writers or artists of any kind. And I just wanted to be able to dig deeply into this idea. And like most of my other novels, there is a speculative element to it. There's a magical realism aspect to it. This artist, Kelly, has an ability to create these amazing sort of immersive images, things that are fantastical, things that you begin to wonder if what she's drawing and painting is shaping reality or whether it's just in her mind or if it's both. And she can't promote herself to save her life. In fact, she just digs a bigger hole for herself anytime she tries to. And that's where Lefty comes in, who's kind of a washed up baseball pitcher who was going to do big things, and his life sort of fell apart. And he's much older than her. He's like 15 years older than her. I know this is a terrible pitch. I'm rambling a lot. But I wanted you to kind of understand my thought process. So I had that sort of theme I was building on. And I had this notion that, well, what if there was a middle way? What if you could create this identity of an artist, this anonymous artist who could achieve amazing success and be shielded from all of the other crap that goes with it. So that's sort of the central idea of this. Lefty and Kelly forged this pen name or this pseudonym called Daedalia. And it takes on a personality of its own. And it begins to influence things in the world, and a whole other set of events spin up as more people discover her work and are inspired by it and affected by it. But that central tension between Lefty and Kelly being the talent and Lefty being the salesman, sometimes it happens in one person, but most of the time it doesn't. Most of us have kind of one or the other. So anyway, that's sort of the pitch. The novel itself is, it's mostly kind of done, except for the end. And for those of you who have been following me for a while, I kind of like to go by the seat of my pants a little bit, because that's sort of how I work. A lot of writers that I admire don't go by an outline. I think there's no right or wrong way. For me, it's all about discovery and self-discovery. And this novel right now is around 75,000 words. I'm, probably 25,000 words out from the ending. And I know where it's going now. I feel good about that, which is why I'm beginning to serialize it. So it's a little bit of a high wire act to put this together for you. You can see the first couple of chapters here have names that are going to show up in your inbox. And as I write, I do the narration. I have a little closet back here, which is a bathroom that I do all the recording in, which is not the most convenient thing, but it's what you have to do to get rid of all the noise here in Midtown. So my process, I do the first draft, kind of narrating to myself in the park like a crazy man. And then I go and refine it, on my desktop computer, iterate on it a little bit, and then I just keep going. I plow straight ahead. And then once I get, like through part 1 here, I'll go back and reread the entire thing. A tip for some of you who are writers who need some help, like reviewing your work or your process. I found a really great app called 11 Labs. I've followed them for a while. They do AI voices, but this app allows you to be able to basically copy and paste in text from anything, your own writing, and have some really high quality voices narrate it back to you. And it's often helpful to hear it in the air, especially dialogue. And when you're reading your own work in your head, I think it's sometimes impossible to really hear it. So that's been an amazing tool for me to use. So I'll dump these first 10 chapters into there, and on my morning walks, I'll listen back to them, and then I'll make notes, and then I'll come back and I'll do the deeper edits. And then there's one more editing pass that happens, and that's when I'm doing the actual recording, the narration, because when I'm performing and I'm doing the narration with the voices and the characters, inevitably I will find things that don't work, inconsistencies, and I fix them there. So it's this weird multiple passes of editing that I go through. So that's a little bit of what the process looks like, and you can see down here there's a note where I'm letting my parents read along with me on chapter 18. You can't see it because my head is in the way here, but let me see if I can move that around. Yeah. Mom and Dad. So they're the early readers along with Parodies. So I'm happy that they're always along for the ride. Okay. So once I've kind of gotten through this piece of it, I know it's going to be a thing. I know I'm going to make a novel. I know it's real. And I then start thinking about the other aspects of the creation of this work. So I'm a musician, which you may or may not know, a songwriter. That's kind of where I started out. So music is always sort of playing in my head at some level. I'm kind of creating this environment. So I want to play for you kind of what this soundtrack sounds like, how I began to assemble it. So let me get my guitar out, and we're going to try this live, and I'm sure inevitably I will screw it up, but let's give it a try. All right, so this is my fancy little looping pedal you see down below, and it's a great tool to just iterate songs on the fly. So I had this riff. I wanted, there's something about Daedalia that is very much about kind of labyrinthian mazes. She draws these really intricate things that begin to lead in directions that she's not even aware of. So I wanted something that kind of showed that little that articulation. Okay, so there was that riff, and I thought, okay, that's a good bed, that's a good loop. So I'm going to go ahead and show you what the whole thing kind of sounds like, each piece by piece. And let's see. So the first piece is there. Second part. Alright, the loop's not perfect, but you can kind of hear it. Okay, and there's another little counterpoint thing that I started hearing that was interesting. And then, of course, you can always add little percussion pieces like. Okay, at this point, it's kind of a thing. It becomes a song. And it has a B section, which I wrote, which has like a little simple. So that's kind of what the pieces sound like. And then, much like the way that I refine my writing, I'll let it sit and marinate for quite a while. And then, let me turn this reverb off. So now I'm closer to you. Once I get it germinating in my head and I play with the looping pedal and kind of get the parts assembled, I then, this last week started bringing it all together and assembling it as parts in Pro Tools. And I recorded those bass tracks that you just heard. And then I started layering in some synthesizer stuff, which I am such a novice at, so it takes me a lot longer to do that, but I wanted the extra texture. Everything I do can't sound like guitar music. So I'm very happy with the way that the whole thing came out. And I can't wait for you to hear it all sort of together. And I can give you a little bit of a tease of what that sounds like with the trailer here. This is a new trailer that is going to come out for it. I've done a couple of these, so this is an excerpt that you can watch and listen to. Here it goes.
Her favorite spot was under a jacaranda tree in the park by the lake, where she would sit in the violet-tinted shade of its blossoming boughs with a sketch pad and a couple of ink pens for hours, drawing. She always started by sketching something she saw, a duck rooting in the grass by the water's edge, an old Chinese man doing Tai Chi, or a broken bicycle abandoned on the sidewalk. But the images evolved beneath her hand into an otherworldly dimension with a near impenetrable latticework of passages bending around and back upon themselves. A maze. In these trances, hours would pass. She survived on the kindness of strangers. The immigrant nannies who brought their charges to play in the park began to bring her food. The empanadas and tamales, pork dumplings and rice balls were an exotic discovery for Kelly, who had grown up on Hamburger Helper. Some days her stomach would begin to growl, and in sympathy her pen would respond, sketching a path through a stand of bamboo by a koi pond filled with swirling gold fish, head to tail, one consuming the other, the scales of their muscular bodies wrought in such painstaking detail. Her pen would continue on to the corner of the page where it left a narrow but open corridor, an invitation waiting for some kind soul to accept and step in with a pair of fish tacos, the handmade tortillas still warm.
All right, so that is kind of a little trailer snippet. That is another sort of novice skill I have, is kind of video production, and that takes me forever to do. Not as long as it used to, because there are so many amazing tools now, and I take advantage of them. I kind of have my own sort of inner tension about using AI. I use it for work because it's a necessity. I think you can't have a job in knowledge work these days and not use it. You just simply can't. Every company that I work with pretty much is making it mandatory with all their employees. So I don't use it to create. At least I don't use it to create writing. I don't use it to create music. I do cheat and use it for prompting imagery, and I'm going to show you that next, kind of how that works. But I have my own, I guess, code. I don't just generate things wholesale. I typically create pieces and assemble those, which is how I've been putting together the artwork for Daedalia, some of the stuff that you saw in there. So I'm not too precious about I think AI is a tool that extends our capabilities. It shouldn't replace them. I don't want to live in a world where people never have to learn a craft, but I have no problem with someone who is a fantastic musician or visual artist but can't write to save their lives, using AI to be able to write things to help them promote themselves, or I think it is in that way an equalizer. It gives us all an opportunity. So I'll get off my stand now and share the art. Okay, so let's pop over into Photoshop so you can see what I'm talking about. So I generated first this this image that you see, kind of like a labyrinthian pen and ink drawing of hedgerows, and not amazing. This took several prompts to get it to this point. It's not standalone. Like I said, AI is good at creating pieces of things. It's not good at creating a whole vision. So I wanted to layer on some other textures for interest, so I created this sort of floral pattern and then overlaid it, and that became a little more interesting to see them together. And then I added some titling. I liked the script. I felt like it was kind of beautiful. It was a big hero, but it felt like too much going on, so I modified it. I dropped the overlay out of there and simplified things a little bit. But again, the beauty of anything, whether you're writing or playing music or doing art, is time. You need time in between to be able to let things settle and come back and look at them in a different day and see them with clear eyes. This felt just kind of clunky to me. Didn't feel elegant at all. And it also didn't feel human-centered, and all my stories are very much character-driven. So I went for this next concept, and obviously a lot richer here. We can strip it down so you can see the individual elements, but you still got this base here, this labyrinth underneath all of it, right? And then I've got this overlay. I added a blend here to kind of make it really intense. And then I created this girl's face, which I treated heavily, and I added some other elements here, like she's got some more detail in her eye. So you can see that none of this is just one AI, one-shot generated deal. It is layers upon layers of adding elements to make it feel like this. Again, I still like this big hero title, and played with different ways to treat it. Okay, so it's getting closer there. I think one of these was not supposed there. That's not supposed to be there. Okay. Closer, way too busy. I came back and looked at it later. I was like, way too busy. Way too busy. Simpler, warmer, green. I liked it. So all this has been happening over the past 6 months, I guess. And where I've ended up is hopefully the best of all possible worlds. It's clean, it's simple. She's at the center of it. The color palette's nice. So that's the artwork. So a little peek into the process of how I put all these things together between the art and the music and the words. And what questions do you have? You can certainly jump in the comments on this post, and I'll do my best to answer any that you may have. But I'm really excited to be releasing this on the 12th of January. First 2 chapters are going to drop, and then there'll be a chapter every Monday after that until we're finished. So probably about 40 weeks. And as usual, I will do the audio narration, and you'll hear that soundtrack sort of at the beginning of it each time. But I'm so grateful to all of you for giving me the opportunity to do what I love, to combine all these crazy things that I love into one universe, to make a world that I can share with you every week. So thank you. And it's going to be fun.